Hello, I hope you're having a lovely day today. Recently, I had a question from one of you guys that said, how have you learned all your skills? I need some resources. And how have you overcome overwhelm while learning all of these skills? So today I want to share on becoming a skillful wife. And what's great about this is for you single ladies out there, you can start practicing now by learning to work well with your hands. And it's also a great vision for our young girls to raise up our daughters to become skillful women so that we can bless our husbands, bless our households by the work of our hands and build our home economy. I talk about the home economy often because it is something that is no longer talked about in our culture. But being a homemaker is being a manager of your home. And to be a manager of a home is a huge task. It is a huge job. We have so many responsibilities. The Bible does command us to be diligent with our hands. We honor God with the work of our hands. And obviously there are seasons for rest. There's times for rest. But I think rest comes from being first diligent. So how do you learn more skills? Because for a lot of us, we were raised in the public school system and then we went off to college. And as far as practical skills go, those things are not taught in those institutions. So a lot of us have had to just learn to figure these things out once we've reached adulthood. Mrs. Patty also commented on this, and I thought her response was so good, so I'd share it with you. I loved how she said, as older women, teaching the younger women and bringing the young ladies into the house is the best way to learn. And I think that that is so true. It is so much better to learn from someone who's doing it, from someone who's done it, and to be taught from someone who knows how to do things, because that can save you from so many mistakes. So that's a huge blessing. And then also she said, just doing one small thing at a time and get really good at it. And that for me is how I've learned the vast majority of my skills, is by winging it and by trying it and having the courage to try it. I think we kind of live in a perfectionistic society that almost prevents us from trying new things because we think we have to be really good at it the first time we try it, or at least that's been my own experience with things, is having a fear of trying something or having lack of courage to try something because I'm not going to be very good at it. But with all things, it takes time to perfect a skill. So you can expect to mess up. As Margot said in our recent video, to do it messy. And I think that is such a good thing to keep in mind when you're learning new skills, is that it's going to be messy. You're going to make mistakes. Things aren't going to turn out. But praise God that you're trying. I have not used my sewing machine since we've moved into this house a year and a half ago. And I think it's because fear has crippled me, that I just feel overwhelmed. Like the commenter said, of how do you not experience overwhelm? And so about a month ago, Scott was out of town for the weekend and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take an entire day and make an apron, and it's not going to be great. I didn't even look up a pattern, which I know for those of you who are sewers and watch this video, you will probably cringe because I did not follow any tutorial. I did not look up how to do it, and I know that that's probably not the wisest thing to do since we have information at our fingertips. For me, this was about having fun. Do you remember being a little kid and you just thought you could do anything and you just tried it, and sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't? That's how I felt when I was doing this day. I was like, you know what? I have a vision in my mind for what I want this apron to look like, and I have an idea of how things work. I'm gonna look at this apron that I have currently, kind of model it off of that, and I know that I want my apron to be longer. That is something that I've wanted, is having an apron that goes all the way down so that way grease stains or whatever else stains, it doesn't splash on my skirts or dresses, but gets on this apron. And I got this fabric a few months ago for very, very cheap. I did a video on it, and so there wasn't a whole lot of risk either because I didn't pay a lot of money for the materials involved, so it was okay for me to just try it and it not work out because I had a lot more of this material. But I think for those of us who do struggle with perfectionism, the best thing you could possibly do And this is what I did when I quit my job to be a full-time homemaker. The first thing that I did was looking around our house, finding a need, and then addressing that specific need. And that's pretty much how I learned all the skills that I have, especially when I first started off. I quit my job in 2018 to be home full-time. At that time, the very first thing that I noticed that we needed was almond milk. At that time, I had been working at Trader Joe's, and so I was getting a 10% discount on almond milk because that's where I would buy it. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to get this 10% off discount anymore. It's filled with all these fillers anyways, so I'm going to try to figure out how to make this myself. So at that point in time, we weren't doing raw milk. We were mostly consuming almond milk. That's pretty much all we were consuming as far as a dairy substitute goes. And so that was the first thing I learned how to do. I typed in how to make almond milk, and at that time all we had was a NutriBullet, and so that's what I used. I soaked the almonds. I was so proud of myself when I had started making almond milk. And then as you start making things, you start learning more about the economy of things. Almonds cost more than oats. So that was the next thing that I learned how to do, was instead of doing the almond milk, doing the oat milk, and then, looking at the other areas of the house. It was during this season that Scott and I first got a glimpse of bulk food buying, because a Whole Foods was moving to a new location, so their whole store was discounted down, and we saw this couple having tons of stuff. I remember them having diapers, and we walked out to the parking lot and we were like, that is how you do it. When things are on sale, you buy them in the biggest quantity you can. And it just so happened that a few weeks later in our same area, a Fresh Thyme and a Lucky's was also closing, and both of them did deep discounts on everything. That was our first experience with buying in bulk and learning how to build a bulk food pantry, which is a skill. Having food on hand and keeping food in your household is a huge blessing. It's a huge skill set to learn how to cook from ingredients, and sometimes it takes just buying the ingredients and then figuring out, okay, how do I cook with these ingredients? How do I prepare them so that our bodies can absorb all of the nutrients from them? You just learn by doing these things. One of the other first things I learned how to do was laundry soap. I was spending a lot of money on laundry soap, and when you cut down an income, that's the first thing you do, is you start thinking, okay, what are the things that I can create in my home? That way I don't have to buy them at a very expensive price because we just cut out one of our incomes. And so laundry soap was the next thing that I decided to do. And I didn't know anyone who had made homemade laundry soap at the time. I think I found Farmhouse on Boone's, it was Farmhouse on Boone's blog that I found, and she had used a naphtha soap, I think it was. I remember buying it, and then I returned the soap because I didn't like it. So then I tried another type of soap, and my laundry soap making has been trial and error. It actually has been over 5 years ago that I started making laundry soap, and it's just within the past 2 years that I've really found a recipe that works for us. I did a whole video on that. I'll link that below if you're interested. So a lot of times things just take time and seeing what works for you, because what does work for other people may not be what works for you, for your household, for your climate where you live. It might not work for your body. We all have different things that suit us better. So it's one thing to be able to learn from people in real life and people on the internet, but then to also then make those things your own and what works for you and for your household. And also with that, learning new skills, it takes perseverance. It takes knowing your why for doing it. If you don't have a value for the home, if you don't have a value to what you can bring and what you can offer to your household, then it'll just be easy to buy the things. It'll just be easy to consume what other people have created and you not do the work yourself, because what's the point? Why does it matter to make it yourself if you don't have a why for doing it? Because then there is great purpose and value in what you're doing, and it makes you excited about learning how to do it. And when you're excited about learning something, even when you fail, you have the courage to try again because you really want to learn how to do the thing. That's how I learned sourdough. The first 2 times I could not get my starter going, and then my friend Julia, she bought me this whole bread making kit and a recipe book, and the recipe book shared how you make a levain. And so I tried it for the 3rd time, and finally it worked, and I was so excited that it worked. And so sometimes it just takes trying again, but if you don't have a value for why you're trying it, then it would be easy to give up. This is how my apron turned out. It is not perfect. There are lots of mistakes. If you know how to sew, you probably cringed watching me make this, but it was so much fun for me to make. I truly enjoyed it. Now I am on to making something new for the first time. So years ago, when I first got married, my sister was big into making kombucha. She had her whole SCOBY going. She taught me how to do it, my mom how to do it, our friend how to do it. She got everyone into making kombucha. And recently I was like, you know what, that's something I'd like to get into again. We stopped doing it because we moved so much, and it just was one of those things that I couldn't manage with how much we were moving. And so I decided recently that I want to make kombucha again. However, I don't know anyone who has a SCOBY. So I was gonna buy one from Azure, and then they were sold out. And when I saw my sister at Easter, she told me that you can use the GT's kombucha, the plain unflavored one. You can use the mother at the bottom of your bottle and make it from that. So I looked everywhere for the plain flavor, could not find it anywhere, and then I found a recipe that said you could use the ginger one, and that's the one we usually buy anyways. So that's the one that I used. It is currently deep in the cupboard, and so we will see if this works. I am hopeful. And so yeah, I hope that this has been fun for you to listen to and encouraging. Even if you fail, to try the next thing. Look around your house and see what is something that I could create this month instead of consuming. Even if it's just learning one skill every month, that is going to give you huge momentum down the road. So I hope you're encouraged and excited about all of the opportunities that we have to learn new skills and build our home economy. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless you.